Well, so good to see everyone's beautiful faces, some familiar faces, some new faces, and we've got a great little program for you. This is not only Creative Mornings November and Liminal, but it's our 8-year birthday. 8 years.
And if you do the math, 8 is the year where we crossed 100 Creative Mornings events that we've been on since 2013.
Wow.
So that's a lot.
Props to you.
Is that right, or is that 96?
It's 96.
I saw somebody go.
I mean, we like round up.
Let me say it again. If you do the math, we're getting very close to 100 Creative Mornings events.
Yes.
And this is our first hybrid event ever. So hello to everyone who's listening through my phone.
Say hello.
I hope you're not still on mute.
Let me check.
I think I unmuted it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
you
there's
look like
at
we're good.
least 4 people on there tuning in from other places around the world. And I think we have like 20 people signed up for the live stream, which is exciting. But yeah, it's been a while since we've been here. Our fun fact, our event in March of 2020 was, I believe, on like the 14th or 15th, which was roughly the day that the state of Colorado locked down. And I know because that was also my birthday.
What?
It's my birthday every year, but that year especially was
What day is your birthday?
March 14th.
I think it was March 13th.
It was the day before, okay? Yes.
Because it was Friday the 13th, and we're like, are you kidding?
And there was, yeah. Yeah, so I remember at that event, it was like 2 nights before, we had to decide, like, we're gonna have to call this off, and we quickly pivoted to doing a virtual event. So thank you everyone who attended that. That was our first time doing that. That was very exciting. And then since then, we've been hanging out in our basements on these.
Yeah,
So,
with pants on 50% of the time.
well, yeah, maybe. This was the last in-person event that we did. If you are one of the people who follow me on Instagram, you know that I put banana peels around for no good reason. So I put that on our speaker's laptop. And I think these pictures are good because it shows Dave's progression from a really
serious.
Yeah, into like a modern mountain Jedi.
I like that.
Yeah, you know, like Obi-Wan Kenobi,
Yeah.
young Obi, like Ewan McGregor.
Ah, thank you. Wow,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was going to get so many compliments
Yeah.
there. Thank you.
Yeah, and one of my unfortunate pandemic purchases was a lightsaber that I did not bring this morning, but I think you need one.
So you can use this, I guess.
Yeah, so it's nice to finally be back here in person with all of you, and I hope you remember how to do this. That's all. That's all.
We know.
Yeah,
Just,
we do.
just tap into the heart.
Yeah.
We're going to tap deep down. So we got a little game to play. We're going to do raise your hand if. Okay? Over the last 20 months, what has changed? What has happened? I just want you guys to look around the room as we share some raise your hand ifs. Let me give you some examples. Raise your hand if in the last 20 months you baked a sourdough bread. Unbelievable. Unbelievable how much sourdough is floating around the world these days. I refused.
You said no sourdough?
No sourdough.
In my house, we went through, I think there was a first phase that I don't remember, and then it was the sourdough phase, and then it was the kombucha phase, which I did not like as much as the sourdough phase. And now we are back in the sourdough phase, which is very good.
Yeah, wow. I made a lot of chili.
Honest.
Well, my girlfriend did. She makes great
I
chili.
remember the chili phase being a thing.
Yeah, is that a thing for anybody?
A lot of chili?
Ooh, I like that one.
That might be more than sourdough.
All right. How about, did you happen to start an OnlyFans account? No one's going to admit to that? Is no one here to build their business? What in the world? How about a TikTok account? Anybody start a TikTok account? I see some TikToks. That's reasonable. That's tasteful. That's tasteful. How about if you found a new job during the pandemic? Yeah. How was the interview process? Just virtual. I think I see a thumbs down. That was wild. But making some moves despite tumultuous times. How about if you fell in love? Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, is your person here? Is your person sitting here with you? Oh, yeah. Mine's right here. Mine's right here.
Sorry.
Love you, babe. All right. How about this? Who fell out of love? I'm sorry, but yeah, I mean, it happens. It happens.
I hope that's not like two people sitting next to me.
Yeah. Awkward.
I'm out.
Did anybody happen to start a family or add to your family? All right. Yeah, I know that. Congratulations. Making babies?
Yeah.
Did anyone launch a new business during the pandemic? You industrious sons of guns. Look at you. That's fantastic. How about learned a new instrument? What'd you learn? Heck yeah.
Nice.
Any other instrumental? Piano. That's quite the, wow, those are both impressive. Okay, chopsticks. Anybody else on the instruments? I saw 2 hands in total. All right, we'll just leave it at that. That's fine, that's fine. How about, did anybody write a book during the pandemic? No shit, Steve. Leave it up to the scientists in the room of creatives. I can't wait to talk to you later. All right, well, the last 20 months has been interesting, and obviously you guys pulled off some amazing things. There's also been some challenges and some hardships, so love and respect and gratitude to all the people who might have had it differently, and just a nod and acknowledgement to all those people. So you're here, we're here to have a good time, and as always, be creative. So what's our next section?
Well, next, how many people have never been to Creative Mornings before? You didn't come before the pandemic. Good. Welcome. Welcome to Creative Mornings. Welcome to your new favorite cult. Well, if you have not been to Creative Mornings before, this is a worldwide global event. We are the Denver chapter. There are many other chapters that are also very great. And every month there's a theme. And every chapter in every city around the world is putting on an event around that theme. And the theme for this month is liminal. And I have this on a note. You want me to
Go
do
for
this?
it.
All right,
Do it.
cool. When we find ourselves in an in-between place, we might call our location liminal. Liminal space is found at the threshold between leaving an old life and starting a new one. When we have shed a tired identity but not yet donned a fresh one. Liminality is a state of becoming. Our Sophia chapter chose this month's exploration of liminal, and Septa Summer illustrated this theme. So every month there's also an illustration. So thank you to the Sophia chapter for picking this theme. And today we will be talking about liminality.
Where's Sophia?
Bulgaria.
Bulgaria.
Jim. Gosh.
Yeah. Duh.
No, I just said Sophia.
Yeah.
I was going to pretend like I already knew it was in Bulgaria.
Yeah.
Amy Sapi.
Liminal moments.
Liminal moments.
The time is now.
The time is now.
So what would you say if I were to tell you, sadly, our speaker is not here. They had an emergency.
Yes.
They are
I
in.
say that I know that.
You knew
I
that.
told you that.
Yeah. In fact, he told me that. So we hate to break the news that we don't have our speaker, the maid shop, Mark and Kimberly Johnson, family emergency, everything is fine, but they are not here. So what should we do? I have an idea. I want to just run it by you guys and RJ and see if you're down for this. Just bear with me here. Liminal means to be in limbo, to be in between. And right now we're kind of in between, right in this very moment. But if anything represents the last 20 months or so of our lives, it is liminal. I think something we can all relate to. And outside of the last 2 years, raise your hand if you've ever felt like you are in between or in limbo. You're a bunch of freaks, I love it. So we thought, what if instead of this being an absolute bust, we celebrate liminal and get together in a similar capacity to how we used to do a few of our November events, because it's our chapter's anniversary, and we would have Audience Takes the Stage, where we invite up whoever wants to come up and share a story, but we gave you 2 months of heads up. Now, you get 2 minutes of heads up. So here's how this is going to work. We've already coordinated a little game and activity for us to play. We want to pose this grand question. What is a liminal moment in your story? And I want you to begin thinking about the time where you felt most in limbo. If that's not right this moment, when was it? And what did you take away from it? What did it lead to? Or what is it leading to? While you're thinking about that, I'm not going to expect you to come up right away. We want to tell you a little story about our liminal experience as a chapter. RJ is going to weave you through this narrative. And then we are literally going to have a 3 to 4 minute window for whoever wants to come up, share your story with the community, intertwine some creativity, some hardship, some love, whatever it might be. And we're just going to do off-the-cuff storytelling about the theme of liminal. Everybody ready to do this? Everybody's like, oh, mother. Yeah. No one is obligated, of course, but I know a couple people for sure have a story that they're going to share with us, so you can look forward to that. And when you think of liminal, RJ, what comes to mind?
So one liminal moment that I thought of that connects directly to Creative Mornings was, as we discussed before, Creative Mornings, we've been meeting in person since 2013. So we've been doing this for a while. And then the pandemic hit, and all of a sudden we had to pivot to doing all of our events virtual. And so we came up with some interesting ideas. Things were going fine. It was pretty fun. We had some good speakers. Every month I went into it like, I don't know how long we should keep doing this in our basements. But then we would like get online, there'd be so many people, it was so much fun, we had a really good time.
And my favorite thing was that people from around the world could show up.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think, well, around the state too, there were people in Salida checking in because they're creative, but they couldn't get down here. And then people from literally all over the world could
Our team member Kyle, his mom was calling in from Pennsylvania.
That's right.
I hope she's on the live stream now.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah, so it was exciting. And then something happened, and I'm still not exactly sure what it was. But in June, we went from our events having about 150 people on virtually, 150, to 20. And then in July, it was also 20. And we were like, we can't keep trying to like do this much work to get a speaker ready if we're not sure that people want to come hear them. So we decided to take a little hiatus. And in that place, that was the first liminal moment I wanted to highlight for Creative Mornings.
Yes.
And so Dave, what did you do over the last 3 months to kind of like get yourself reinvigorated for this?
Started planning this amazing event.
Yeah, you've been planning this for the last 3 months.
More or less.
Yeah.
No, that's not true. I guess I just, it was nice to zoom out and remember, why are we doing this? And although we couldn't celebrate community, there was still, is this important to me? Of course it is, but it's like, am I yearning for connections? And are other people? So I kind of just asked that question, like, what was the purpose and the point of this organization? And tried to tap back into that, which was creative connections and honoring the manifesto and bringing people together. And you know what? I know of one little story from earlier this morning. Who here has made a business or a social connection that you just adore through coming to these events?
Through Creative Mornings?
Through Creative Mornings, right? Yeah, perfect. So that's kind of, it's like just tapping into that for the last 90 days and thinking about what will it look like when we finally come back. So that was kind of my liminal moments.
Yeah, that's great. And similarly, we talked about this. I wanted to reconnect with some of the things that got me excited about Creative Mornings. And I also realized that for people who just come in the morning or to our monthly events, you might think of Creative Mornings as like Denver Creative Mornings. But being a host, I've gotten to connect with all of these crazy, amazing creative people all around the world because I'm just a little closer connected to the global community. I don't have to go like find a video. I'm in a Slack room with all these people and we're talking about like, what are you doing for this month? And what's your name tag question gonna be and stuff like that. And so I thought like, I wanna reconnect with that. And can I do that in a way that also like makes that global community a little more accessible to the rest of the world? So we started a podcast, because that's what you do when you're in your basement for a long time, called The Journey Behind talking to hosts in many different cities around the world about how Creative Mornings got started in their city, what their journey has been like as a host, and what they've learned from it, things like that. And I learned some really interesting stories. I learned the Winnipeg chapter started during this pandemic. That's Dr. Christine Watson up there with her puppet. And so they've always been virtual. All of their events have always been virtual. So hearing about like the way that they thought about an event and planned activities and things like that, it was just totally different than the rest of us who were thinking, how can I take an in-person event and make it work online? They were just thinking online first, which was different and super interesting. Vivian and Christine, Vivian in Fort Worth, also both talked about using all of these skills from their jobs as coaches and educators to help keep their volunteer teams together. And so I learned some really interesting, helpful things from them. And then I just also got to connect with a couple of folks who I met at Creative Mornings summits. Every couple of years we do a summit and get all the hosts together. So Susana Juarez is from Guadalajara. I met her in 2014 or something like that. And then Ross Drake's up there from Johannesburg. And they both had just such interesting stories to catch up on. And also I had never heard like, how did you get into Creative Mornings? So hearing from them was wonderful. And then Susanna actually got involved in this project and did all of this album artwork. And she's also a podcast host, so she gave me a lot of tips. And she listened to the episodes and she would say, hey, you might want to think about doing this differently, which was a nice way to get constructive feedback. So that was just wonderful, and I felt really grateful to them. And then I guess the last one I would want to highlight is Katya Giri, the host in Munich right now, or maybe she's a former host in Munich, has traveled all around Europe and been involved in a ton of different chapters, including one in Slovenia that might come up a little bit later. So it was really interesting to just hear about her totally different context for Creative Mornings and also being in so many different cities. So doing this podcast just made me really grateful for our city here in Denver and kind of like helped me reconnect to some of those things that got me excited about Creative Mornings in the first place. And so the last episode that we had planned for this podcast was Dave and I were going to talk about the journey behind Denver. And just to give you a few more minutes to think about your liminal story, we thought maybe we would tell you a couple bits of that story here. So does anybody know who this person is? Does anyone? No, like nobody. Okay, yeah, you do, Amy. This is Tina Roth Eisenberg. On the internet, she's known as Swiss Miss. And she was like an old school blogger when the internet was young and got very famous and popular that way. She's also started a lot of interesting businesses. She runs co-working spaces in New York City. She started Tattly. If you've ever used any of their temporary tattoos, that's Tina. And in one of her co-working spaces, she thought, all these people are doing interesting things in my co-working space. What if we just got together once a month and everybody talked about what they're working on? And that's how Creative Mornings got started. So for me, I was traveling to South by Southwest, and I could only attend one event because it was snowing like crazy here in Denver. I barely got there in time, and I was there to do a talk myself. So I kind of like rushed into the conference, and Tina was doing a keynote. And I'd never really heard of her. I didn't know what this was, but it was a keynote. So I was like, yeah, I'll go to this. And I heard about Creative Mornings. And I heard about all the cities around the world where creative people were gathering, and I thought, I'm astounded Denver doesn't already have this, because it just sounds like our kind of thing, and it sounded so much fun. So I came back and got in touch with some people, and everyone I talked to said like, yeah, I've heard about Creative Mornings. Many people said, I downloaded the application, but I couldn't finish it. And so that told me that what the city of Denver really needed was a person who could finish an application. And I don't have a ton of skills, but that is one I'm pretty good at. I can fill out the paperwork.
You did it.
So I did it, and that's how we got our chapter started. And through that process, I met Amy, and then shortly after that, we started our events, and Dave came on and started helping in our volunteering team. Do you remember when that was and what your first event was?
I went to the very first event where we were eating nitrogen-dipped Cheetos. If you go to maybe, oh, that's already. Like literally you could eat these, this guy was mixing up Cheetos in liquid nitrogen and then handing them out, and then you exhale. So I don't know what this is, but it's a cool cult, like you said.
Yeah.
So then I started volunteering.
Yeah.
That was That was the first one.
Yeah, yeah.
Ian Kleinman.
And you were checking everyone in, yeah. Ian Kleinman.
And then I started
from the
checking
Inventor.
people in because I thought that was the best role.
Yeah, that was a great role. I forgot about those other slides. We had to make a pitch video for the city of Denver. And I'm not going to show you the whole thing, but I wanted you to know that I did this in the middle of it with a giant broom outside of the art museum, and apparently made this face at some point in the middle of it.
I like how gravity like pulled all that and then whoop, and like.
Yeah, everything's just
See
falling.
no, I'm talking the.
Thank you. Yeah. Let's focus. Yeah, thank you, Dave. That's great. So then we did Cheetos in liquid nitrogen. That was exciting. As I mentioned before, we came to the source and we started playing a fun hide and seek game with the chairs every month, which was great. But the source really gave us our first home base where we knew we could come back here like month after month. And so we started trying to like go somewhere else 1 month every quarter and then go to the source for the other 2 months in that quarter. And then we started making some connections and getting to go to really great spaces like the Denver Art Museum. This was, I think, our second or third event at the Denver Art Museum, but it was always just a wonderful place to get to go to. And we started to realize, like, we're getting to take people to places around the city that they haven't been before and hear from speakers that they maybe wouldn't run into before, which felt like we're doing the thing that we wanted to do with Creative Mornings.
I wonder how many places this rug's been. Go back one, look at that.
Yeah.
The rug!
Yeah, there's the rug.
Does it have its own Instagram by chance?
It does not, but
we're incorporating that next.
yeah,
next
if
year.
anybody wants to help with social media, you can post for the rug. Yep, exactly. Dave, do you remember, like, during those early events, what's anything that stands out to you about kind of like Creative Mornings moving into its mature phase here in Denver?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first few events were fairly simple, but there were some partners for coffee and food, and each and every time we tried to take it up a notch, and whether that meant the layout of things or the activations and just having fun with everybody. So, and of course, in the beginning, we're learning things, and then we end up at a space like this where we're in this beautiful arrangement and AV, and everything's hopefully dialed in and polished. So it's just like a constant iteration, just like all of our projects and creative endeavors in our life. So it was always fun to think about how do we, and I literally, as the person with maybe Lauren or Kyle checking people in, I was like, I got to be the first person people look at. What am I going to, how am I going to set the stage for them? So I just love that part of it, and making friends with everybody and connecting with good humans. So
Yeah. I think when I started Creative Mornings also, when we were getting started here in Denver, I was just hoping to connect with the creative community in Denver. And I've learned a lot of other things along the way that have been fun and interesting. And one of them is that when you're trying to pull off an event every month, and it's not your full-time job, it's not even a part-time job, we all just volunteer with this, it means that you can't dial in every aspect of your process that you'd like to, which means that every month there is inevitably like something goes wrong. So we always say like at least one thing is going to go wrong, and when it does, I feel a sense of relief now, because I'm like, hopefully that was the thing this month.
yeah, we can handle that.
We can handle that.
Like even if the speaker cancels, we got it.
We got it. It's no big deal. Kind of.
Kind of.
Yeah, but we've been thrown into some like strange places and had to do some things, and so it's taught me a lot of like flexibility and compassion for the people who come and put together these amazing talks every month, and a lot of gratitude for all of you who show up every month and like make this community a place to be. So that's some of the things that I've learned being at all of these great spaces for Creative Mornings over the years. This is one funny story. When we were in Mile High Station, one of the things that went wrong was the entire AV system. We could not get it to work that month. Some of you might have been there, and again, I'm sorry that happened. But our speaker, Michael Acuna, was like, all right, game on, I got this. And he just projected as loud as he possibly could and did a cappella Creative Mornings. And you can maybe see there, it looks like he's holding a microphone. He is, but it's just the one that's recording for the recording. We couldn't get it hooked up to the PA system. So his recording came out great. And in the room, everybody was leaning in like, what is he saying? But it was still a great, really fun event. We've also gathered a great team along the way, and getting to be, connected to these other humans, getting to know Dave as well as I have, has been fantastic. In 2018, after 5 years, I handed a beautiful purple baton to Dave as a symbol of him becoming the host. Yeah, and I won't get too mushy about this, but I don't know if I even would have met Dave Momper from this. And now there are maybe a small handful of friends who I say I love you to, and I tell Dave regularly I love you, man, because I really appreciate all the things we've been through together doing this. Yeah, so that's my Creative Mornings story. It kind of catches you up to now. This is a picture from this last year. If you remember that, that was a fun time. And if you want to check it out, that podcast is called The Journey Behind. And now we're in a liminal moment looking to the journey ahead and what Creative Mornings is going to be like from here. So I hope we can take some of the things we've learned through the pandemic into what our event turns into in the future. What do you think? Should we do this?
We should do this. Get some stories going. Off the cuff, candid shares, whatever comes to mind. Here's how we're going to program this. I have a 3-minute, 30-second alarm. You can go over that, but not by much, okay? So I'm going to set it. You can come up and tell us your name and tell us your story. And we turn this off so that you can stand right in the middle and share your story. And I suppose the next question is, who wants to go first? Is there anybody? My man right here wants to. I saw his hand up first.
Thank you. I appreciate it. The last thing I was planning to do is talk to a group of people this morning, so fuck me. All right, so I'm Kyle Ashberger. Is anybody in the group adopted here? We have 2 hands and myself included. All right, so this is kind of a far-fetched story, so believe as much or as little as you want. There was a prenatal psychologist that I met in Costa Rica that more or less when my problem was decision making and the fact that I couldn't actually make any decisions for myself, she pointed to adoption as one of the chief concerns here. Now, when you're a tiny little baby in the womb of a mother who is knowingly going to adopt you, and this is all what was been explained to me, it's like having a landlord, more or less, that just does not want you as their tenant. And so as far as calling the womb of your mother home, which normally that's kind of the case, that was not something that I had the luxury of. And so having that home environment to literally grow and become a human in is, in a way, and what she portrayed to me is, it kind of helps you know, this is home. This is my first decision that advertently or inadvertently is made for you. And so thus decision making is less of a problem for most non-adopted individuals. Now, for me, the way that I sort of handled this more or less liminal scenario and whatnot is quite simply, nowadays I'm self-employed. I go out, I meet as many people as I can, go to kick-ass events like this, and I explore. The people I come across sort of guide my life. And for psychologists that I've come across and therapists who usually light up at the idea of, ooh, he's adopted. That's a great place to kind of start with potentially the root of all problems. That's not the case. The tonic to the liminality of adoption for me has been exploration. That's what I wrote on my name tag. And so the exploration comes from spontaneously getting up and telling a story to random strangers that I've never met before, which my heart is like exploding out of my chest as we speak. I don't know. So maybe the answer is do something weird, do something fun, go meet new people, let people guide your life. If you don't know what this next stage of life has in store for you, having just moved here, I'm sort of in like a mood. So here we are, that's my message. Sure.
That's awesome. Give a round of applause, guys.
Hey guys. I don't do public speaking. I get very nervous, but my name's Marina. I'm from the suburbs of Chicago. I moved here about a year ago. I just wanted to say how I got here, basically. So, March 2020, I was working as a marketing assistant for a restaurant group. Doing a lot of event planning, some graphic design work, a lot of exploration within the position, so it was a lot of fun. I was looking for a new job though. And right before COVID hit, I was about to interview for a position that was in Chicago for a group that I was excited about. And then right when the interview hit, COVID hit, and they were like, yeah, we can't hire you right now, everything's frozen. So then when I was about to go into a new position in Chicago, everything kind of stopped. And then from there, I did a lot of event planning. About 70% of my job at the restaurant group was event planning, so I was one of the first people to go. And that kind of changed my direction. From there, my main community of people, my gym, closed down. They ended up shutting down from the pandemic. And so everything kind of shut down, and I was forced to make a fresh start. And that was my liminal moment there. And so I started freelancing. I picked up a position here or there from people I knew, made connections, etc. And was kind of just sick of life in Chicago. I'd been there my whole life, been in the Midwest, went to school at Indiana University. I don't know if anybody's going there. No? Okay. And so I decided that since everybody was working remotely, I would drive across the country, found a place off of Craigslist from, in the area, and decided to sign a lease and moved here. So I've been working as a freelancer. It's been one of the best decisions I've made in my life to move here. It was one of the scariest, for sure, of like, I hope this all works out, just pack up a car and leave. And now I'm ready for my next kind of in a liminal moment right now. I'm looking for a new position. Currently have one, but looking to have something in person in Denver, because I don't know if some of you feel this way, but working from home kind of gets old. It's nice to be with creatives in person again, so I'm ready for that moment. So from one liminal moment to the next, Again, my name is Marina. Hope you guys have a good Friday.
Hey, so my name is Margaret, and good to see you guys. Oh my gosh, it's been so long. So my liminal moment has been going on for like 7 years, and it started because I was living in New York City. I work as a creative copywriter and director in New York, and I was like, gotta get out of New York. I've never been to Colorado, but I like to ski. So I just said, okay, I'm coming. So I came out here, and I've been working out here all that. But one of the things I found that was really missing when I got here, with all due respect, a real sense of Colorado fashion and style that isn't just gear, right? So I started my own little company. It's called Trapper of Colorado, and I started making things that are mountain inspired, but I'm still trying to figure out what is Colorado style. So this is a call and response. All right, I'm gonna just give it over to you guys. Does anyone have anything to tell me that is Colorado style in the sense of like your adornment, your fashion, sartorial, that is not, I'm gonna go climb a mountain this afternoon. Okay, like give me an answer. Puffy hoodies. I beg your pardon?
Pearl snap shirts.
What?
Pearl snap shirts. Like Rocky Mountain.
Oh, right. Okay, yes, that's good. Okay, give me more. Wool socks, yeah. Smart wool is from Steamboat, that is true.
And you want it, what should it be?
Thank you. Thank you. No,
I like all those things though, by the way.
I do too. I mean, I wear them all. I haven't worn any pearl snap shirts, but I like them. I'm fine with it, But it's like, what can we do? Like, we're in the middle of the country, right? And it's like, I feel like everyone's doing California.
Okay, I think it needs to be anything with Colorado, even if it's like high fashion, it needs to be layers. Yeah.
Thank you. That is so true.
Like
so true, so true, so true, so true. What have you got?
We're in the desert.
Yeah.
Especially southern. So you sort of like you see the movie Dune.
I did not. Yeah. I totally love that. No, like I kind of like the idea of it as a little bit of a like, because we are really like that. We'll go out in any weather and do all kinds of crazy sports, and people are like, how did you do that? I'm like, that's what we do. But at the same time, how can we do it in style that doesn't just look like, we just kind of just followed the coasts.
Might I ask you what inspires your Colorado style?
It's totally a mountain aesthetic, but it's also heritage. Like I really like the idea of the sense of like taking in our history. And this is like a total shameless promotion for my company, but it's called Trapper of Colorado because the first thing I designed for myself was like a Lux trapper hat, with the ear flaps. And so I wanted something that looked really good going to work on a cold day that didn't look like gear. It didn't look like I was going hunting and it wasn't actually using an animal pelt. But the thing that I did was take in our history because I lined the insides with like traditional Chinese silk satins because I'm finishing quickly. In the 1800s, so am I. So in the 1800s, the North American fur trade, most of the pelts were being imported to China, and so that's what brought Chinese silks in to North America, and so that's part of the history. So I try to like draw on history, and I think that's what we need to do is like remember who we are and our roots here in this mountain state. Thank you.
Okay, hi. I'm also not much of a speaker, so I'm going to be probably super brief. So my name is Anja. I work as art director and graphic designer, originally from Slovenia. So I moved here 2 years ago, and in Slovenia I've been regular member of the CreativeMornings in Ljubljana, and I believe they started in 2013. They had one of the best events, and it was one of my favorite events. And I'm super happy to be here today because I know how much that meant to me when I was in Slovenia, and it's so great to meet all these amazing new people today. So yeah, my story, my liminal moment would be probably, so I used to work in advertising agency, Grey Group, for 4 years before I moved here. So I pretty much have contract, I had my apartment, I had pretty much steady life. And yeah, 2 years ago I left it all, moved to Vail, Colorado, and yeah, I've been since loving it. It's just amazing. It was definitely super hard at the beginning, not knowing people or trying to find a community, and I feel like I'm starting to really get that, and thank you all so much, and very nice meeting you after that.
It's kind of good. All right. My name is Ryan. I'm a creative director, new role at a company locally here. This is terrifying for me as well. So what this says is facing my fears. So here I am. Thank you. So I'm taking on a new leadership role. And so I've got a couple of my staff here, which is great. I want to show them that you can come up and do something that's terrifying and still survive it. So my liminal moment is when the pandemic hit. It was also in time with my 3.5-year relationship ending. And it was the hardest thing I've ever gone through in my life because we were codependent. Anybody familiar with that? And I thought we weren't. I thought we had a great relationship, and in losing that relationship, I realized how much growth I had to do. So the biggest thing I took away from that was in the codependency, I had an attachment style. So it took me about a year to get here, just FYI, to get to that awareness of it. So I decided to let go of everything I owned. I had a great condo, I let go of that. I had nested for the last 15 years and collected beautiful furniture and created a space that felt like home for me. So I sold everything. I sold every single thing I owned, well, except this. Some things are just hard to find. And I bought a van. So, but I bought an old, cool 1987 Volkswagen pop-top van because I had character, and I'm a photographer, and I wanted it to be my model wherever I traveled. In the the process of doing all of this, I realized that the safety I had from all the things that were around me and all the attachments I had gave me a false sense of who I was, a false sense of security, and I didn't want that for myself. I wanted to challenge myself more to grow, so I figured the best way was to let go of everything. So I bought the van, learned how to do plumbing. It's a 33-year-old van. It has a German-designed water and propane system in it, and the electrical doesn't really work. So I learned how to do all of that, and through that, I started to find things that brought me joy again, brought me back to being creative and finding my skills, and realized that when I started to travel with this van, that I could have relationships that felt present in the moment and fulfilling to me, but I didn't have to attach myself to them. And so my liminal moment has been the last 2 years of exploring myself and letting go to find more attachment and less dependency. So.
Great job. Thank you to everybody for sharing your stories.